tacked onto the end. So you have a completion, you have a new beginning, but what really is behind all of it? And as I started thinking about that, I began to come to a realization that he wants to go into this place of intimacy, this place of the clouds of glory. And he's saying, I don't want you just to go out in the wilderness and live in a tent. You know, God's bigger than that. There's a deeper purpose. He says, I want you to learn how to Sukkot. It's on a 7-day frame. And remember what we said, everyone can attain to that. That's attainable for us. And we're doing that right now. Right? We've done it for 8 years. We've practiced that and we've attained to it. And so we can live in Sukkot. We're going to look at some of the practical applications of what that means now. But how many of you are getting to fellowship with a lot of different people? Yeah. You know, now that's part of Sukkoting. Because if we're going to truly become one, how many not be one with somebody until you get to know them? It's just not even possible. You can be on friendly terms, but you're not one. The more time you spend together, the more the oneness is solidified, right? So working with us to do, he wants to solidify and make us one. We're going to, at Shiloh, when we get home here in probably a couple of months or whatever, I don't know. But down the road here a little ways, we're going to start talking about that ihad, that oneness. We've got to find what does that mean and how do we acquire it? Because quite honestly, the church doesn't have oneness. I don't think. You know, we get together and we do a little outreach and we think that's oneness. Well, that is not oneness. Do you need it louder? That's tolerate one another for one evening. And if you've ever been in a pastor's meeting, you would understand exactly why I'm saying that. So we need to really learn how to Sukkot. So with that, in letter A, live filled meetings. We never see that cloud of fire and that cloud by day and the manna rolling in and the birds rolling in. We just haven't experienced that. We read about it, we long for it, but we have not experienced that. And we have to ask ourselves why, because it's the same God. And this is how he took care of his people when they were Sukkoting. And there's the key. They were Sukkoting, and this it's set apart. He didn't just allow them to survive through the wilderness. I mean, seeing the glory cloud and the pillar of fire and the manna, that's more than surviving. It was a hard journey, obviously. But, I mean, how many of you would like to see that every day? Wouldn't that be phenomenal? Well, we know it's out there. Our God's the same yesterday, today, and forever, is he not? Okay. So, at the very there it says living in Sukkot is. Now let's go ahead and start to look at this as some practical things that I believe Sukkot is all about and things that we need to work towards attaining. Now this is one of the reasons I was explaining why we've changed up the schedule a little bit. And of course every year we will go home and the elders and pastors our very first meeting will be a debriefing. And we'll probably spend the whole meeting debriefing, probably 6 or 7 hours, talking about what was good at camp, what can be improved at camp, what was not good at camp, and so we can try to make it better for next year. We do this every year. We do this after every actually. We debrief and try to get it better, because that in is making Alyah, right? Okay? So, Sukkot is there, choosing to enter the secret place. Choosing to enter the secret place. Now, many of you have seen, how many of you have seen the picture that I have taken in Brazil of the tongues of fire on people? Okay, a handful of you. This is a picture been verified by Kodak. What you're seeing in the picture is real fire. And it's on all these people. It was a first grade little recital that they were doing at Baptist church. And the Spirit of God fell on this place and everyone is enveloped in fire. Everyone except for one person. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? You were the one guy. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, you don't see that. And you're not going to get a sense at this, probably. Can you imagine? I would be kicking myself. I'd be going, Lord, give me one more try, one more shot. Let's do this again. I'll do it better. Right? You guys can come in up here if you want, under the shade. There's shade here. You guys can camp out right here. It's fine with me. Okay? So, why was this one guy not enveloped in fire and everybody else was? Well, sin in his life, but you know, the chances are there was sin in everybody's life there. Isn't that the reality? So, he had worse sin than others. I don't know. But there's something that prohibited the Spirit from manifesting on this individual. So I think if we're going to truly what Sukkot is all about, we choose to do it. So we camp, and then rather than just hanging out in a tent and preparing extravagant meals or whatever it is that consumes us through the day, we need to come saying, I am going to press in. Whatever it takes, I'm going to go for it. Right? If you don't have that attitude, you're going to come to camp, you're going to have a good time, you are touch from the Lord, and you are going to go home a little bit different. I don't think you can come to a camp like this and go home exactly the same. I think you're going to be changed to some degree. But we want to be changed to the highest degree possible, right? And so we have to choose for that. There we go back to that choice thing again. I make a joke out of it, but it's so true. People are sending me little things on Facebook now about, you choose. And I like it because it helps me too, because I have to make the choices as well as everybody else. I mean, my flesh is just as fleshy as yours. I'm just as carnal. I mean, I got all the flesh is flesh, right? So I have to make the choices. Am I going to do this or am I going to do this? Of course, my flesh wants to do this. My spirit wants to do this. This is what Paul writes about in Romans 7 and 8. And you have to choose. And whichever one you choose, you're going to reap from that. Okay? The benefits or otherwise. So, choosing to enter into the secret place. I'm going to turn over to Exodus 24. Exodus 24, and we're going to start in verse 15 here. It says, Moshe went up onto the mountain, and the cloud covered the mountain. We read a little earlier today, remember, he went into the tent, and the cloud descended on the tent. Now we read he goes up the mountain, and the cloud covers the mountain. You have to make the choice. You have to go into the prayer tent or whatever, and say, I'm just using those as examples, but you have to go, Lord, I'm here to meet with you. That's why I stayed up late. That's why I'm here. And because I've come in faith, can I expect him to show up? Absolutely. Right? He will show up. When will he show up? I don't know. I could be in there 5 minutes or 20 minutes or 3 hours. Who knows? But 40 days. But when I read the Word on my own, I like to stay in the Word until God speaks to me. So I don't just go, okay, I've got time to read one chapter and do speed reading through it. I'm done. I stop. Why? Because whatever it is he spoke to me, depending on how heavy it is, I want to absorb that. Right? Make sense? If I read 10 chapters and then he speaks to me, that's what I do. So I don't have this year thing where I have to cover so many chapters. And when he speaks, let's be honest with ourselves. You don't quite understand everything in the first 5 minutes. You have to digest it. Make sense? God's ways are not our ways, and it takes time. So he went up the mountain, and the cloud covered the mountain. The glory of Adonai, that's the glory cloud on the top of the mountain. Moshe now enters the cloud in verse 18 and went up on the mountain. He was on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. Now, how many know it is physically impossible to go without water for 40 days? You can go without 40 days. At 40 days, you to starve to death. And a human being that's in reasonably good health can go without food for 55, 60 days. It's pretty much max. And then you die of starvation. Because at 40 days, you know when it says Yeshua fasted 40 days and he was hungry? What that literally means is he fasted 40 days and now he's starting to die. He's starting the dying process. What happens is your flesh begins to eat itself for nourishment. So that's what starving to death is, and it eats itself until finally it's done. What you can only do for 3 days, and that's if you're laying nice and still in a humidified room. The sign is anything but that. So how did Moses go up, and he did this several times, by the way. How did he go up on the mountain and without the food? Okay, I can see that. I've done several 40-day fasts. That's not a miraculous thing to me. But days without water, now that's miraculous. Something's going on. What it is, in my opinion, is he is actually Sukkoting. He has gone into the secret place with the Lord. And remember what I've always shared with you. I believe this is a word from God. I believe the day is coming when man will not live on bread alone. I think if we're ourselves in the wilderness, running or hiding or doing whatever it is we might be doing, I think the day is coming when you're going to read the Word of God, and that will become your physical sustenance. I believe that's a word from the Lord for the church. And I believe that's what the Lord means when he says, Obviously, on the Peshat level, he's saying, guys, we've got bread that you don't know about. But on the deeper levels, what is that really saying to us? Okay? We've got to go into the deeper levels. If you want to make Aliyah, you have to go into the deeper levels. I didn't get into this morning, but I could have. Pastor Paul touched on this last night. It was really good. From Ephesians, I don't know if you use that scripture or not, but I had the scripture. In Ephesians, it says, let's turn over there for a minute. Let's go to Ephesians chapter 4. Where he ascends.
Ephesians 4.
Let me see here.
After he went up into the heights and led captivity.
Yeah. Let me read this from the... Let me see here. Let me go to the Amplified for a moment. Okay, let me read it from the Amplified. It kind of does it. Let's start in Ephesians 4. Let's start in 4:8. There it is said, when he ascended on high, so when he made Alyah, because how many know when the Lord did, he was making Alyah, right? Therefore, it said, when he ascended on high, he led captivity captive. He led a vanquished foe, and he bestowed men. Verse 9. But he ascended with a question mark. Now, what can this, he ascended, mean, but that he had previously descended from the heights of heaven into the depths of the lower parts of the earth? So he who descended is the very same as he who has made Aliyah, ascended high, that he, his presence, might fill the whole universe from the lower to the highest. Now, think about this. The Lord, and remember the very first night I shared with you the root meaning of Elyon and Olah, the Olah offering. And when you want to go up, you start in a low place. So in other words, things happen in our lives. I remember one year I was teaching a Bible study. One night I was teaching a Bible study at his house, and I was talking about how you can have the shalom of God no matter what the circumstances, and you need to keep that shalom through the midst of it. And we heard a loud crash outside. I went, wow. And then another loud crash. And so I went outside. Well, a driver in my car backed up and smashed into it a second time, drove off trying to get away, and ran into a tree. And the Lord said, the message was for you tonight.
Thank you.
So, was I at peace, or was I going to start freaking out? You choose. Thank you, Bonnie. You choose. Sharon, this is to make Aliyah. Now, obviously, we have us, did he? We have to ask these questions. So, is God in charge of everything? This is what Paul was saying. The good, the bad, and the ugly, he's in charge.
And is it an honor?
Is it an honor? In some ways, if you look at it properly, God, you may be the only one in the whole camp that he's doing this particular work with. I hope so. But, you see what I'm saying? So, in life, if we're going to descend, he descended from heaven to earth, later descended again into hell, and then ascended back to earth, and then back to heaven, right? We're already on earth, so where do we descend? Kind of into the bowels, into the abyss, huh? Things happen. We get the word cancer. That's the C word. I mean, there's nothing, humans don't like hearing the word. But when you hear that, it pulls you down, but now you have the opportunity to make Alyah, to come. And if you choose that, you're going to come to a level. And is that the purpose? We probably will never know what the purpose is. God doesn't really fill us in on those details. What from us is trust. We're willing to say Father is in control of all things until something bad happens, and then we're trying to reason it out and figure out what went wrong. Who's doing this? Is this life? Is this the devil? Is this the Father? What is going on here? And we start looking for reasons rather than just trusting. We only have so much energy. Let's put our energy into trusting God. Right? You know, a bottle only holds so much liquid. Same with you. You're a vessel. You only hold so much. So fill it up with God. Don't fill it up with worry about why is this? You'll probably never know. So choosing to works in Ephesians there. So he ascended, but he also descended. So that's for us. So we have to choose. If you're saying the camp here and you're saying, you know, Lord, I want to go higher, how many know what that means?
Yep.
Or what it can mean. You could start from the level you're at and go up, and that's the preferred model. But it doesn't always work that way, does it? Sometimes you're saying, Lord, I want to grow. And Kathleen and I prayed for more faith years ago. Big faith. We just bought a portal. Somebody did us. Right after we prayed. And the Lord said, you wanted more faith? Here it is. Oh, I didn't want that much. You know, so we have to be careful, right? So I think about that now. I also think about getting a word from somebody. You know, believers are always running around wanting a word. Do you realize that a word, there's an attack that always comes with it? Always. Because you're about to make, the word is always about ascending, isn't it? It's always about going to a new level. Lord. Well, don't you know that's going to be contested by the enemy? So all that to say, you have to choose to enter the secret place. It's foremost. And here at the camp, you have to choose to enter into the secret place. You can sit in your camp and not enter the secret place. You could be here at camp all week long and never enter into the secret place. Don't do that. You've made a great sacrifice just to get here. Make the most of it. Go for it. Amen? I mean, that's how I try to approach things. We're here for a purpose. And it doesn't mean you can't have fun. Having fun is all part of Sukkoting. I'm going to show you. But it all has to be in its proper order. Okay, number 2. The second, living in Sukkot, is number 2, choosing forgiveness and reconciliation. Every year we go through there on registration here. Actually, next year we'll be going through we have to account to the main office up there, and we have to pay for the number of heads and the number of campgrounds and the different combinations. So we'll put this couple with this couple, and we pray. The Lord just guide us and lead us. And then the couple says, I'm not staying with them. I hate their guts.
It's not quite that.
I'm over much in some cases. Do we trust God? Can't we just say, sign me up wherever, I'm going to I trust the Lord to put me with whomever I'm supposed to be with. Isn't that a higher stance? That's an Alyah. And if you really want to go up higher, he's going to put you with somebody that you wouldn't normally choose. Is that right? We also have people that have been bickering or fighting, and we didn't get it resolved at Yom Kippur, and so it carries into Sukkot. You're supposed to get this done at Yom Kippur, so that when you come to Sukkot, you can actually not just live in a sukkah, you can actually live in Sukkot, where there's shalom. Make sense? What is shalom? Nothing missing, nothing broken. Isn't that what the children of Israel experienced in Sukkot? Their clothes didn't break. They had all the food they needed. They weren't plagued with sickness. Nothing missing, nothing broken. They were Sukkoting, just like Moshe when he went up on the mountain for 40 days with no water, no food. He was Sukkoting with God. Where he was going, he didn't need water and food. But to get there, you can't have unresolved issues with other folks. So God has set it up that we get these things resolved at Yom Kippur at the very latest. Hopefully you've done it before that. And then we're able to go into the Sukkot camp and actually enter into Sukkot. We're actually able now to live in Sukkot. Nothing missing, nothing broken. Peace and shalom. Now, if you come in here and you're at odds with somebody, is that going to hinder what you receive? It certainly is. Now, this is a lesson for us. Because if you can get it right here for 7 days, you can go home and next Friday, you can make it right day and start living in a new level of Sukkot every day of your life. Kathleen and I, unresolved interpersonal conflicts very quickly, or we try to, because it hinders your walk with God. It is not acceptable to God, and you're not going to be blessed by God when you have problems going on with your brothers and sisters. You're not going to be blessed the way you want to be blessed. We've got to deal with these. How many of us parents have told our children, go in your room and make it right? I was dealing with, we had a men's retreat one year, and on my eldership, I had a lot of inner conflict going on. And I got so irritated at the conference, I took the microphone and I said, you guys get into that corner, you get it right, and don't come out till it's right.
Previous eldership.
This was previous eldership, not our current eldership. I come out of that till you're reconciled. Because I'm not fooling around with this. This is ridiculous. We're trying to lead a congregation. You guys sound like a bunch of old clackety hens. And guess what? They went in about an hour. They came out. I said, we got everything worked out? They said, yep. I said, good. Let's move forward. It's ridiculous to do this stuff. All you have to do is deal with it. And how do you deal with it? You make Alyah again by saying, I apologize for what I did or whatever I did. You make it right. You come up. Does that make sense? Guys, if we want to grow in the Lord, it's what we have to do.
1 John 1:9.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. How many know there can be no reconciliation until there's forgiveness? And the Father's best for us is reconciliation. You know, we don't have a group of people in the church that are just on peaceful coexistence, where they can be civil to each other. And we, time to time, you know, you'll come into the body once in a while and you'll see a husband sitting on this side of the building, sitting over here, and obviously there's trouble in paradise, you know. But what is our goal? To bring them back together in reconciliation. Amen. You can't have that for one meeting, it's all right. You know, let's work through it. But then they have to be big enough to let people pray for them.
All right.
Bill, I'm glad you got
All right.
Say, I love you, my dove.
My Hepzibah.
Okay, that works.
That works, yes. That works.
Poor Sue didn't know I was going to do that to her today. But I get away with it with her.
Yeah. Actually, it was a first for me. A dove.
Yeah, Dove that's usually not what I call her, but I have my pet names for her.
You do, yeah. Dove is nice. Dove is nice, though. I like Dove. It's a good show. It's a good show. New beginnings.
Dove works. Go to Matthew 5. I'll bet every one of you that's married, or even sometimes if you're not married, just with close friends, you have pet names for people, don't you? Does almost every couple here have your pet name for your spouse? How many? Okay, and that's what you call. You don't really encourage others. Because that's your special secret name. Well, the special name for you. In fact, in Revelation that he's going to reveal that name when you get to heaven. He's going to call you by a new name. And you know what name it is? I'll never forget, was it Chuck Smith or John? It was Chuck Smith one day sat and he said, "The Lord spoke to me and told me my secret name." I went, wow.
And he wasn't supposed to share it, and he did. With someone.
Did he?
Yes, he shared that.
He shared it with someone he wasn't supposed to.
Yeah.
Bummer.
Now he's got a new secret name.
Now he's got a new name. But for you, you know, if you spend enough time in the secret place, he may reveal that name to you. It may come out because it's a term of affection and endearment. Right? And it's a special name that only you have. And it's only between you and him. I mean, when you start getting that kind of intimacy with the Lord, do you think that's going to change your walk? Some of you are going, maybe. It's going to change your walk tremendously. 5:9, I'm going to read from the Amplified. Blessed, enjoy happiness, spiritually prosperous, with life and satisfaction in God's favor and salvation, regardless of their outward conditions, are the makers and the maintainers of peace, for they shall be called the sons of God. You know, usually it just translates out, blessed are the peacemakers.
Yeah, right.
But this says so much more. This really fills in a lot of the blanks, and I realize it's not exactly scriptural. The Amplified is just an amplified version, but it really enlightens us in so many ways. And enjoying enviable happiness. You're going to have so much happiness with the Lord, people will envy that. Spiritually prosperous. How many want to be spiritually prosperous? Right? With life, joy, and satisfaction. You know, it's hard to even find sometimes a believer that's even satisfied. Remember what Paul wrote? He said, I've learned to be content. Contentment is satisfaction. I'm satisfied. It's like I said today, Kathleen and I, our life is pretty much, it's good. It doesn't mean we don't have problems. It doesn't mean things don't happen. They do. But our life is generally pretty decent. I'm very satisfied with it. I'm very happy. But I want more. I know a good thing when I see it. And I want more of the good thing. Right? and God's favor and salvation, regardless of their outward conditions. See, the way that Peter and Paul and Silas and all the rest that were in prison, when they were singing and worshiping God in prison, how do they do that? They have these things regardless of their outward conditions. This was an opportunity for them to make Alyah, and they did it. God sent the angel, released the captives, and they walked out rejoicing and praising God. They didn't sit there and go, well, God's let me down. Boy, I really cringe when I hear that from believers. And I understand, bad news can sometimes take the wind out of your sails. And for moments, that's all right. But it can only be momentarily, or you're in trouble. You know, those things shock us, and they do take the wind. But if you're surrounded by good friends and good people, they start blowing into your sails. You have enough friends doing that, your sails fail. Yeah. That's encouraging one another, right? I realize that believers say, well, they deserved it. Years ago. Don't hear yourself. Discipline them because of something they did to you. And you shouldn't even think that way. What you should be doing is praying for them. This is reconciliation and forgiveness. We cannot go into the secret place with unforgiveness and a lack of reconciliation. So here at camp, if there's somebody you got a bit of a problem with, just go make it right. Just humble yourself and go and say, you know what? You probably don't even remember, but I said this or I did this years ago. I'm asking your forgiveness. I acted like a jerk. And the person goes, well, I don't even remember it, but that's okay. Or they might say, you know what, it's been keeping me up every single night since you said it. I'm glad you came to me. But either way, it's good. Either way, God does something. Right? Okay. Living in Sukkot is number 3, choosing to be one. Choosing to be one. Go to Ephesians 4:2. How many know in marriage you have to choose to be one? Just because you have a license doesn't mean diddly squat. Right? Would you agree with that? Just because you're legally married, you got your license on the wall, that doesn't mean you got bliss at home. Just because you're a believer doesn't mean you have shalom. Just because you're a believer doesn't mean anything, except you're going to go to heaven when you die. That's the only thing concrete it means. Everything else we've got to work towards. Right? Same thing in a marriage. Just because we're married doesn't mean that you've got peace. You have to create oneness. You have to choose oneness. So you can have division or you can have oneness. You choose. And again, it comes down to humbling ourselves. But does not the word say that if we will humble ourselves, what does he do? When what is lifting up? It's Alyah. Humble yourself and you're going to make Alyah. Humble if you're going to come up a few more notches. Isn't that what we all want? That's why so humble ourselves to do this. Ephesians 2, reading from the Amplified. Becomes you with complete lowliness of mind or humility and meekness, unselfishness, gentleness and mildness, with patience, bearing with one another and making allowances because you love one another. Verse 3, be eager and strive earnestly to guard and keep the harmony and the oneness of and produced by the Spirit in the binding power of shalom, which is nothing missing, nothing broken. When you have oneness, that's what your relationship with whomever or whatever will look like. Nothing missing, nothing broken. It'll be shalom. There is one body and one Spirit. just as there is also one hope that belongs to the calling you received. There is one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of us all, who is above all, sovereign over all, pervading all, and living in us all. You think he's trying to tell us here? Oneness is huge to God. Now, I don't care how good your marriage is. How many would like to have even a better marriage? How many think you could have a marriage in which you have today? I think I could. In fact, I know I can. I have God out. I'm not even close. If I take goodness and mercy, we're in trouble. Head for the hills. We haven't tapped it. It can be better. It can always be better with the Lord. Every day. No matter where you're at, it can be tomorrow. Now the choice becomes, do you want it to be better tomorrow? That's you, isn't it? Or humble yourself to make it better. Or to do whatever is required. How many know in reconciliation, kind of going back one step, reconciliation is just saying, I'm sorry I broke your car. I give the car back to you. I smashed into my secretary's car one night after Shabbat service.
It was after Shavuot.
How was it? I got my Shavuot thing, and then I got my Shavuot opportunity to make Alyah.
And so did she.
And, that was a little $800 bumper. But I ran into her car. It's not enough to say, hey, sis. Sorry. It's not that bad. And it didn't look that bad to me. It was a car. I thought, well, that's nothing. $25, $30 should cover it. Here you go. No, $800. But that's reconciliation. And now in our relationship, Deanna, we have shalom, don't we? No, I'm teasing. But you have to make things right. And honestly, believe me, we're way short in this arena, I think. Also, remember, if I go into my prayer closet and ask the Lord to forgive me for offending you, He can't forgive me for offending you. I didn't offend Him, I offended you. He says, that's why He says, leave your altar and go and make it right. If I have to go to you and ask forgiveness. I've gotten pretty good at it because I have to do it so much. I'm serious. Because I'm like a boy in the shop sometimes, and I offend people. I don't try to, but I do. And both Kathleen and I are very quick at this. If I hear offended you, I will come to you and say, hey, if I need to make this right. And then we can start a dialogue about it. Why? Because I want to live in that place called Sukkot. Because that's a place of shalom, nothing missing, nothing broken. That's a place where I can live. I don't even need bread and water there. He will take perfect care of me in that place. That's the secret place. That's the sweet spot, right? Let's see. Okay, yeah. So she 1. In number 4, living in Sukkot is number 4, choosing to be hungry and thirsty for righteousness. I'm happy to see so many of you come out after a very rushed meal. I apologize for that. I was really torn because I thought if I wait till Thursday, a lot of people just aren't going to have the opportunity to get the rest. And, you know, we have good intentions to watch the YouTube, but then the camera breaks or whatever, and you don't get it. And I didn't want to see that happen. So I was really torn, and I don't even know what happened. Actually, it shouldn't have gone that long. But, yeah, I'll blame it on worship.
But we need this before the end of camp.
Yeah. Camp if you're going to make Alyah. The last day is almost kind of defeating the purpose. But I'm glad you came out. But you made a choice to come out. Because we were all tired. I mean, I could have, after I ate, I mean, we went to somebody's tent and just wolfed stuff down, and I could have laid down very easily. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm satisfied, and oh boy, you know, but you're hungry and thirsty. How do I know that? You're here. Our actions speak louder than our words. And the Lord is always watching our actions because they do speak louder. Remember the woman with the 2 mites? He was watching to see what people put in. And he said, this woman's put in more than anybody. Not in face value, not on the Peshat level, but just a broken down motorcycle, don't worry about it. That's no motorcycles. But, so, you're hungry and you're thirsty. If you're not hungry and thirsty for righteousness, you're not going to make Alyah. You can be a believer, you can be a strong believer, but you're just going to kind of creep along in your walk. And we've people who have known the Lord for 20, 30, 40 years, and they've been creeping. You know what I mean? On the other hand, you meet people that have known the Lord for a couple of years, and man, they're just zooming ahead. What is that? It's choices. And we each make our own choices. And for every one of us, the choice is just equally as hard for all of us. The choices Kathleen and I are just as hard for us to make as the choices you have to make. They're just as hard. No one has it or harder. We're all basically in the same condition in that sense. Is that right? Okay, over to Matthew 5. Matthew 5:6. I'm going to read from the Complete Jewish Bible. Stop right there for a minute. How would you define how blessed? How would you define the word blessed? I mean, in spiritual circles, we just throw that out there all the time, don't we? I'm blessed. Are you blessed? I hope you were blessed today. And we don't think about it much, but to us, blessed. How blessed are those who hunger? Well, blessed means you're entering to the benefits of walking with God. You're into the 8,000 promises in the Word. It means you're experiencing the abundance of life. That's what it means to be blessed. It doesn't just mean you got some Holy Ghost goosebumps on your arms. In fact, that's not even being blessed. That's not bad, but if that's all there is to blessing, I'm kind of disappointed. You know, blessing means so much more. Blessing is entering into those promises that God has made to you. And where does He make those promises to you? that earlier, in the secret place. When Pastor told us the other night, he said, go home in the morning, pray in tongues, and ask God for a word for yourself. And several people came back and said, I got a word. What is better than the creator of the universe, the lover of your soul, giving you a personal word? And it can come through the elders or whatever, and that's fine. But when you get it one-on-one straight from God, that is really special. The reason the Lord has to use the pastors and the elders is because we don't all go in there and know to learn how to do this. And sometimes we haven't been taught, or we just don't go. But God still wants to bless us, so he gives a word through a pastor or an elder or another brother or sister. And that's fine. Those are words. They're good words. But when you get it firsthand from the Lord, but trust me, it means a lot more. When you get it from the Lord, you're not wondering if the pastor stayed up too late the night before. He's delusional. When you're spending time with God and you're in the secret place, and he says, you know what I want to do for you? This is what I'm going to do for you. I know the plans I have for you. Plans for a hope and for a future. You want to see a little glimpse of your future? Here it is. The Lord shows me glimpses of our future from time to time. Small glimpses. I can't handle big ones. Just little baby ones. That's enough. That's good for me. I like that. It's like I shared with you when we were in practice the other day at rehearsal, and we started doing that new song for the Prodigals. The Lord showed me the whole service that's going to take place at Calamasa. I saw the whole service in living color in a couple of seconds. Now I'm just waiting for the release of the right time. I know what we're going to do, and I haven't really shared it with anybody yet. Why? Because it's special between me and him. That's the secret he gave to me. Plus, it sounds only half-baked. So if I share it with you, if you share it before you're supposed to, it comes out flat. You've really ruined the thing if you share it too soon. Timing is everything, guys. So you get the secret and you hold on to it. It's yours. God gave it to you. That's what he does when you live in Sukkot. He gives you that secret. He'll tell you what to do with it and when to do it. So choosing to be thirsty for righteousness and living in Sukkot. Let's go 191:1, not 191, Psalm 91. Oh, you don't have Psalm 191? You need better Bible.
That's the new extended version.
That's the extended version.
I know now. I know. 91 what?
91:1. I'm going to read from the Amplified. And I think most of them don't really get this the way I'd like it to. No, even the New American doesn't really cut the mustard on this one. How many of you with different versions? You got to, guys. The New American Standard is the best on the market for translation, but sometimes it just kind of falls short. Version will really get it. I use, just in here, I probably have 15 or 16 different translations that I use every day. These are the ones that I use every day. So, and I have one book in my office has 26 different translations in the one volume. So, but you need to do that because it helps you to get a hold of the word. Look what Psalm 91:1 says from the Amplified. It says, "He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High." Not the dwelling place, the secret place. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall remain stable. That sounds pretty good. And fixed under the shadow. That's the glory. Is it not? Isn't that what the children of Israel lived under? Was the shadow from the cloud of glory? Right? Well, the shadow of the Almighty, whose power no foe can withstand. There are forces out there that hate your soul. It's called hell and its minions. They hate you. Their entire purpose in life, if I can call it that, is to destroy you. They have nothing good intended for you. But if we will dwell in the secret place, we will remain stable and fixed. You know, one of the things I learned just in natural life, being 66, I've learned a couple of lessons in life, and one of them is consistency is one of the most important things in life you can develop. Learn to be consistent. And unfortunately, in our society, consistency is not a well-known commodity. People lack consistency. We're all over the board. We need to be praying, Lord, I want to be consistent. I want to remain stable and fixed under the shadow. I don't want to be spinning out over here and spinning out over there, chasing this and chasing that.
Immovable.
I want to be immovable. I'm planted. Are you not planted? We need to be planted, right? So crucial. In fact, the Bible calls you the planting of the Lord, oaks of righteousness. Well, if you go deep, you're not planted. I'm not getting on anybody's case. This is what it is, though. This is how life is. If your roots don't go deep, you're not planted. You've got to have deep roots. That means you've got to plug in. You've got to become a viable part of a working body. It doesn't mean you don't have to be at Shiloh, but you have to get plugged into fellowship. And how many believers do we all know that are just drifting around, unplugged? They're not oaks of righteousness. The Bible never says they are oaks of righteousness. You know what they are? They're broken off branches floating down the stream. What can I tell you? You've got to get plugged in. If you can't find a congregation that you like, you're the problem. Look, you mean to tell me you can't find one congregation that you can fit in with somewhere? Come on. Stop blaming the pastors. Stop blaming the people. Take responsibility. If you can't find a place where you can fit, you're not doing anything, ever, anywhere. Get over yourself. Plug in. Besides, if you agree with everything and you're not getting challenged, you're not making Alyah. What can I tell you? We were saying before we started here, I'm a button pusher. That's part of my job description, to push your buttons. How many know the Lord himself was the chief stumbling block? He was a button pusher. He ticked everybody off. He's probably you and I off from time to time. I mean, I've had my where I wasn't that pleased with him. Haven't you? I mean, in honesty, I've had a few little disagreements with the Lord. I've lost them all, but this is the first year hasn't been kicking in. So, maybe around. I don't know.
Quit resting.
Living in Sukkot is number 5. Choosing to be married to the secret place. Now, have you ever heard the term, he's married to his job?
Yes. Yeah.
What does that mean? He's devoted. He spends an inordinate amount of time. It's consuming in the thought process. It's what he finds his identity. All of these things. And in sense, it's kind of a negative thing. But really, this is what I'm talking about. We need to be married that way to the secret place. If you want to live in Sukkot.
Security and joy is also what I find when I'm married to my job.
Well, there's some security. However, that can end any day. You know that. And if you spend too much time at your job, you come home. If you spend too much time at your job, your wife isn't appreciative of that, you're not going to find very much joy at all. And so the idea is you've got to, it's the same idea, be consumed with this secret place. In our walk, that's what should consume us. God will not love you even more if you choose for Alyah. He already with the fullness of his love. He can't love you any more than he loves you right now as you're sitting there. He's given you all his love. You may not be experiencing it, but that's on us. But he's given it. So don't think that choosing to make up, you're going to feel more love. Well, you may feel more love, but it doesn't mean he's giving more love because now all of a sudden he's real happy with you. Does that make sense? Choosing to make the sacrifice of Alyah causes us to ascend. Just the choice. Just by making that choice that I am going to make, I am going to rise higher. I'm going to take the high. I'm going to make the apology. I'm going to go and make reconciliation. I'm going to choose to enter into the secret place. I'm going to choose the forgiveness, reconciliation. I'm going to choose to be one with my brothers and sisters. I'm going to choose to be hungry and thirsty for righteousness. When we were young in the Lord, people, we started a group a couple months after we got saved. It just happened. We just opened our house, said, hey, come on over. We told our party people that we just 2-3 months earlier partying Friday night. We said, hey, we're over and we're going to do a Bible study on Friday night. And our house filled. And people came, and for all intent and purpose, by the time we were 5 years old in the Lord, we were already pastoring. Now, how did that happen? Because I have no degrees in anything. Not one. I don't even have an AA. Barely got out of high school. It was only by the grace of God I even got out of high school. Tell you the truth, I hated school. Okay? But the point that I want to make is this. When I was brand new in the Lord, I had my own business. I took every Friday off, and I went to the church library and studied for 8 hours every Friday. I was brand new in the Lord. That doesn't make me special, but what it does do is it demonstrated to the Lord that I was hungry and thirsty for righteousness. That's what it did. Somebody doesn't open their Bible for 3 months at a time, you're not hungry and you're not thirsty. What can I say? It is what it is. I'm not condemning anybody. And we have to stay on that because we all go through these ups and downs. You know, we go through a season where we're on fire, and then we go through a season where we're kind of whatever, you know. But we want to be stable of the Most High. If we abide in the secret place of the Most High, we're going to remain stable. That means you're going to continue on with your course. You're going to be consistent. When you're consistent in life, you go farther. Okay? So this is what shows you're really choosing Alyah. And when you choose for Alyah, when you choose to make the sacrifice of Alyah, it causes you to ascend like the Olah offering. The Olah offering is the burnt offering. It was completely consumed and completely used up on God. An Olah offering would be the same as if right now I took a $100 bill out of my pocket and I lit it on fire just to say, I'm just going to burn this up to show you how much I love God. And it all burns up, and that $100 is gone. All up in smoke. And if it's a true Olah offering to the Lord. Okay? That's Olah. There's no benefit to you. None. You're just doing a demonstration as to your love and concern for the Lord. So choosing to make the sacrifice of Alyah causes us to ascend like the Olah offering into the clouds of glory that surround Elyon. Remember, we read the scriptures on Wednesday night. Elyon surrounds itself in clouds. Somebody came to me after being in the prayer tent the other day. Said, you know, I was in the prayer tent and I felt like I was surrounded by dark clouds. I said, man, we just talked about that. They weren't sure whether it was evil or I said, well, let's look at it as God. Why not? You're in the safe place anyway. What are you worried about? Right? And he surrounds himself, and the Bible even says, in black clouds, dark cloud. So, Elyon, so is when we make Alyah, we're ascending as that Olah offering into the presence of El Elyon, God Most High, or God who has ascended himself. You want to be like Yeshua? You need to ascend. If you want to be like Yeshua, you must make Alyah in every area of your life, every day of your life. Higher, higher, higher. Tomorrow morning when we're shouting at Reuben and Rob, higher, I want you to think of this message. Because what you're shouting is, Lord, I want to go higher. I don't want Reuben to have to get another step stool.
Get a ladder.
Then Rob, I want to go higher. You want to go higher? Then let's go higher in this camp. Amen. That's our teaching, guys.